When you hear the word introvert, what picture appears in your mind? Maybe someone sitting alone in a quiet room, someone who avoids parties, doesn't like talking, and would rather spend the entire weekend by themselves. But that picture is far too simple. Being introverted doesn't automatically mean you hate people. It doesn't mean you're shy, antisocial, or afraid of conversations. Psychology suggests that introversion can show up in very different ways. In fact, researchers have described 5 broad types of introversion. And here's the interesting part. Two people can both call themselves introverts while having completely different reasons for wanting distance from the world. So let's break down the 5 types. And listen carefully, because you may discover that your personality isn't what you thought it was. 1. The social introvert. First, there's the social introvert. This person doesn't dislike people. Quite the opposite. They can genuinely enjoy spending time with others, but only when the environment feels comfortable. A small group of close friends. Perfect. A quiet cafe with one person and a meaningful conversation. Even better. But put this person inside a huge party filled with strangers, loud music, and endless small talk, and their energy can disappear quickly. It's not that they don't know how to socialize. They simply prefer quality over quantity. They would rather have one deep conversation than 10 shallow ones. If you love your close friends but feel drained by crowded social environments, you may have a strong social introvert side. But what if your withdrawal isn't really about people? What if the real world inside your head is far more interesting? That brings us to type 2. 2. The thinking introvert. The thinking introvert lives heavily in their inner world. You might see them sitting quietly during a conversation and assume they're bored. But inside their mind, a completely different story could be happening. Maybe they're analyzing an idea, imagining a future situation, creating a story, solving a problem, or simply getting lost in their thoughts. This type tends to be reflective, imaginative, and deeply interested in understanding ideas. Their silence isn't necessarily caused by nervousness. Their attention is simply turned inward. You could be sitting in a room full of people while your mind is exploring an entirely different universe. And this is why thinking introverts can appear distant even when they are perfectly comfortable. But there's another type whose desire for solitude comes from a much harder place. 3. The anxious introvert. This is the type most closely connected to the classic stereotype of an introvert. The anxious introvert may want to avoid social situations because being around people creates intense discomfort. Before speaking, they might worry about saying the wrong thing. During a conversation, they may wonder how they're being perceived. And afterward, their mind can replay the interaction again and again. Why did I say that? Did I sound strange? Did that person think I was awkward? A tiny interaction can become a huge mental replay. For this person, being alone can feel like relief because solitude removes the pressure of constantly monitoring themselves. But there's an important distinction here. Introversion and social anxiety aren't the same thing. Someone can be introverted without being anxious, and someone can experience social anxiety without being an introvert. Understanding that difference matters. 4. The selective introvert. The selective introvert is highly careful about who gets access to their time and energy. They aren't necessarily shy, they aren't afraid of people, and they can actually be very outgoing around the right person. But their social circle is intentionally small. They don't feel the need to become friends with everyone they meet. Instead, they quietly observe people and decide who feels genuine, trustworthy, and worth investing their energy in. You might see them at a gathering talking to only one person while ignoring the rest of the room. It's not because they think they're better than anyone. They simply don't enjoy forced connections. Small talk can feel exhausting, while a deep conversation with the right person can keep them talking for hours. And here's the interesting part. Once a selective introvert genuinely trusts you, their personality can completely change. The quiet person suddenly becomes funny, expressive, playful, and surprisingly talkative. So if you don't dislike people, you just dislike the wrong people. You might have a strong selective introvert personality. Your silence isn't rejection, it's selection. 5. The restrained introvert. The restrained introvert is the slow starter. This person doesn't necessarily fear people. They simply don't rush into situations. They like time to wake up, time to observe, time to understand what's happening, time to decide what they actually want to say. Imagine walking into a room full of strangers. While everyone else immediately starts talking, the restrained introvert may sit quietly and watch. Who's here? What's the atmosphere? What's happening? Who seems trustworthy? Only after understanding the environment do they feel ready to participate. Because of this, people may mistake them for being cold, distant, or uninterested. But often, they're simply moving at their own pace. Their personality doesn't come with an instant on button. They need time to warm up. And once comfortable, you may discover a completely different person underneath that quiet exterior. So, which one are you? Here's the fascinating part. You don't necessarily belong to only one category. You might be mostly social but occasionally anxious. You could be a thinking introvert who also needs a lot of time to warm up. Or perhaps your personality changes depending on your environment, energy level, and life circumstances. And that's completely normal. Human personality isn't a collection of four perfectly sealed boxes. These categories are better understood as different patterns of introversion, not permanent labels. The important question isn't, "What's wrong with me?" The better question is, what does my mind need in order to feel comfortable? Maybe you need a small circle. Maybe you need quiet time to think. Maybe social situations trigger anxiety that deserves understanding rather than judgment. Or maybe you simply need more time than other people to feel ready. None of those automatically makes you broken, boring, or antisocial. Your need for solitude can be part of how you recharge and process the world. So now I'm curious, which type sounds most like you? Social, thinking anxious, restrained, or a combination? Write your type in the comments. And if this video helped you understand yourself a little better, subscribe for more psychology explained in simple, fascinating ways. Because being quiet doesn't mean you have less to say. Sometimes, It means there's a lot more happening beneath the surface.